You ever notice how rich people never spot the trap until it's too late? They only want important people at their wedding, as if that label makes a person better. Leo, not your immigrant friends. I remember him saying, like it was the most normal thing in the world. My daughter's fiancé sealed his own fate with 11 careless words. Baron Carter, investment banker, old Westchester money, Yale grad, was standing in my modest living room on a Thursday night, brushing off 3 decades of my sweat and sacrifice with a flick of his wrist. I didn't shout or argue. I just nodded slowly. That calm smile, the same one my crews recognize, meant someone was about to learn an extremely expensive lesson. Baron thought he was talking to another lucky contractor with no leverage. He had no clue that the unimportant immigrant he was dismissing actually owned the contacts that could make or break his perfect $250,000 wedding. In 24 hours, his wedding would be gone. His reputation would be in ruins. And 150 guests would watch exactly who the important people really were. Subscribe if you want to know how I made a $300 million empire erase his American dream in one night. But first, let me walk you through how it all went down. The disrespect didn't begin that Thursday night. It had been building for months, small cuts adding up. It started in March when Baron first saw my guest list. There were 27 names on it. My construction crew, my foreman, the guys who helped me build Vargas Construction from nothing. Frank Winchie taught me American building codes when my English was broken. Dan Kennedy vouched for me when banks wouldn't even look twice at an immigrant. These men weren't just employees, they were brothers. Dad, maybe we should reconsider some of these invitations, Helen said gently, with Baron's arm around her shoulders. The Carter family has certain expectations, he added. Baron nodded like it was no big deal and said, It's nothing personal, Leo, but a wedding reflects the families involved. We need to think about optics. That word, optics, haunted me for weeks. By April, my list had been trimmed. The construction guys were gone. My poker buddies from the old neighborhood were gone. Even Mrs. Garcia, who watched Helen grow up while I worked 18-hour days, was considered too informal for a Carter wedding. We're keeping it intimate, Baron explained as he flipped through seating charts at my kitchen table. Just family and people who, well, people who matter in our circles. I watched Helen during those talks, my pride and joy, the first Vargas to graduate college, and she squirmed, but never spoke up. I kept telling myself love makes you blind. She'll realize later. But it only got worse. In May, Baron suggested I might want to upgrade my wardrobe for wedding events and handed me a business card for his family's tailor. Nothing offensive, Leo, but you'll be meeting some important people. First impressions matter, he said. That phrase, important people, kept echoing. The real slap came during the venue walkthrough at Westchester Country Club in June. I'd put down the $2,500 deposit myself. I'd earned every penny laying brick in 100-degree heat while Baron was playing lacrosse at prep school. When Baron introduced me to the wedding planner, he said, He's in construction, like I built sewers instead of the luxury homes his friends lived in. What he didn't know about that country club was this. In 2019, Vargas Construction renovated their entire East Wing, $5 million of work, and I knew every board member by name and had their cell numbers. I'd saved them when the original contractor walked off the job. I just smiled and shook hands. By July, the pattern was obvious. Baron was methodically erasing my life from his wedding. My business associates? Gone. My church friends? Not invited. It seemed even my brother Julian, a cardiologist who'd been saving hearts for 20 years, wasn't established enough in the Carters' eyes. 3 weeks ago, the final insult came. Baron showed up at my house with revised seating charts and put me at table 12 in the back corner by the kitchen doors. Helen's mother, God rest her soul, would have been mortified. Her picture sat on the mantel like she was watching this entitled kid disrespect everything we'd built. It's just logistics, Leo, Baron said without meeting my eyes. The front tables are for immediate family and key business contacts. Key business contacts? I'd built a $320 million company from nothing. Vargas Construction employed 340 people and completed 847 projects across 3 states: shopping centers, office complexes, luxury hotels. Our logo was on sites from Manhattan to Albany, and yet according to him, I wasn't a key business contact. That's when I started making quiet phone calls and asking about Baron Carter and Carter Investment Group. What I found out made my blood run cold and my resolve become crystal clear. On paper, Carter Investment Group managed $950 million in client assets. Impressive numbers. But my private investigator, the same one I used on employees, uncovered discrepancies, missing client funds, unexplained transfers, and gambling debts of $590,000 in Atlantic City casinos. Baron Carter, the man judging my worth, was embezzling from elderly clients to bankroll his lifestyle. The Securities and Exchange Commission had opened a formal investigation 2 months earlier, and federal agents were quietly building a case. His perfect wedding was scheduled just weeks before his perfect world collapsed. But he didn't know I knew any of this. He thought he was marrying into money. My money would bail him out. Thursday night, when he stood in my living room and dismissed my immigrant friends, something clicked inside me. This stopped being about social status and became about character. It became about a man who'd never honestly earned anything, questioning the worth of a man who had. Baron assumed he was dealing with just another immigrant contractor who'd gotten lucky. What he didn't realize was luck had nothing to do with it. For 30 years, I'd built more than buildings. I built relationships, trust, respect, and a reputation that opened doors and moved mountains. On Friday morning, Baron Carter would find out exactly how many mountains I could move and how fast his perfect wedding could be erased. Friday morning, 7:40 a.m. My phone rang while I was checking over Vargas Construction's weekly reports. Baron's name lit up on the screen. I record all my business calls. 30 years in construction has taught me people say things and later swear they never said them. Baron was about to hand me a gift. His own words. "Leo, we need to talk." That voice of his carried the same entitled edge I'd grown to hate. "I've been thinking about yesterday's conversation." "Have you?" I asked, letting him run with it. "Look, I need you to understand something. This wedding isn't just about Helen and me. It's about 2 families uniting. The Carter name has carried weight in Westchester for 4 generations." I stayed quiet and let him keep digging his own hole. "My mother is hosting a pre-wedding dinner next Thursday. The guest list is selective. We're talking about people who shaped this community. Business leaders, political figures, old families." "I see. The thing is, Leo, your people, your friends from the construction site, they wouldn't feel comfortable in that setting. And honestly, they might make the other guests uncomfortable, too." My hand tightened around the phone. "My people. Don't take it personally," he said. "It's just reality. Look at the Hendersons. Their daughter married that tech entrepreneur last year. Beautiful wedding. But they kept the guest lists clean. His Silicon Valley crowd, her Greenwich Society friends, everyone stayed in their lane." Their lane. This kid was really telling me to stay in my lane. "Baron, let me ask you something. What exactly do you think I do for a living?" Silence for a moment. "You're in construction," he said finally. "You've done well for yourself. Helen mentioned you own Vargas Construction, right? And that's great, Leo. Really. My grandfather always said America needs skilled tradesmen. You've built a nice business. But this wedding, the people coming, they're on a different level of society." A different level of society. He was explaining class to me like I was a schoolboy. "Tell me about this different level, son." "Well, there's my father's law partners. Federal judges. The Whitman family. They own the biggest bank in the county. Senator Reynolds will be there. These are people who move markets, who influence policy. They speak a certain language." "What language is that?" I asked. "The language of real power, Leo. Old money. Established influence. Look, I'm not trying to offend you. But there's a difference between new money and money that's been refined over generations. Refined money, like wine locked away in a cellar, getting better with age. So my money isn't refined enough? It's not about the money itself, he said, softening his voice like he was explaining something to a confused immigrant. It's about knowing how to use it, how to present yourself, how to navigate certain waters. My family's been part of the Westchester establishment for over a century. We know these people. We know their expectations. You don't. And that's okay. You've achieved the American dream. Came here with nothing, built something. That's admirable. But Helen is stepping into a different world now. A world with different rules. The American dream. He said it like I'd won a participation trophy. Different rules, I repeated. Exactly. Leo, this marriage is Helen's chance to rise higher, to be part of something bigger than where she came from. But that requires sacrifice. It means leaving certain things behind. Like her father's story. Like the people who helped shape her life. And what exactly are you asking me to do, Baron? I'm asking you to think about what's best for Helen. Maybe you could host a separate celebration for your people. Something casual. A barbecue. Maybe, after the official wedding. That way everyone's included, just in the right settings. A barbecue. For the unimportant people. And you believe this is what Helen wants. Helen wants to fit in with her new family. She wants acceptance. And she'll have it. As long as we're careful with how we handle these transitions. Handle these transitions. Like my daughter was changing countries, not last names. Leo, let me be direct. This wedding is about Helen's future. Our future. The Carter family has connections that can boost her career, her social standing, her whole life path. But we need to be strategic about associations. Strategic about associations. He saw me as an association to be managed. You know what, Baron? You're right. This wedding should absolutely reflect the kind of people you and Helen want to associate with. Exactly, he said, relieved. I knew you'd understand. Oh, I understand, I told him. I think I understand even better than you. Something in my tone must have shifted because he suddenly asked, Is everything okay, Leo? Everything's perfect, son. You've made it all crystal clear. Good, good. So we're on the same page about the guest list changes. We're definitely on the same page about who belongs at this wedding. After I hung up, I sat in my office for 5 minutes replaying the call. Every word, every insult, every casual dismissal of my life, my friends, my worth. Baron had just given me 23 minutes of ammunition. More than that. He'd given me moral permission for what I was about to do. By noon, Baron Carter would learn the difference between inherited privilege and earned power the hard way. At 11:52 a.m., staring at my daughter's graduation photo on my desk, I made the decision. Helen, valedictorian at Forum Business School, the first Vargas to wear a cap and gown. I worked double shifts for 4 years to pay that tuition. Never missed a parent conference. Never missed a graduation. That girl was my everything. And she deserved far better than Baron Carter. My phone buzzed. Helen calling. Dad, Baron said you two had a good talk this morning. He said you understood about the wedding arrangements. Her voice was relieved but fragile, like she'd been holding her breath for months. We definitely understood each other, sweetheart. Good. I know this has been complicated, but Baron's family has certain traditions. And Dad, honestly, this could be really good for my career. His father's law firm represents major corporations. There could be opportunities for me. Helen, I said gently, do you love him? Silence. A silence that dragged too long to ignore. Of course I love him, Dad. Why would you even ask that? Because real love doesn't make you ashamed of where you come from. Another pause. When she finally spoke, her voice had shrunk. I'm not ashamed, Dad. I'm trying to fit into his world. And sometimes that means making adjustments. Adjustments. The exact word her fiancé had used. Honey, let me ask you something. When Baron comes over to our house, does he ever ask about the photos on the mantle? About your mother's story? About how we got here? Does he ask about the business? About the people who helped us along the way? Does he even want to know about the life that shaped the woman he claims to love? Silence again. Helen, I said, a man who truly loves you doesn't erase your history. He honors it. It's not that simple, Dad. His family, they have expectations. And what about our family? What about our expectations? That's when I heard it, my little girl crying softly into the phone. My heart cracked wide open. Dad, I just want this to work. I want to be accepted. Baby girl, you don't need acceptance from people who won't take you as you are. When she hung up, I sat there for 10 minutes, staring at nothing, thinking about the man my daughter was about to marry. A man who looked at me like I was a liability. A man with skeletons in his closet, throwing judgment at me while hiding his own rot. A man who would spend their whole marriage teaching Helen to be ashamed of the strength that made her extraordinary. That's when I opened my laptop and started dialing numbers. First call, Kevin Brown, my private investigator. Kevin, I need everything you can dig up on Baron Carter and Carter Investment Group. Financial records, client complaints, SEC filings, the works. How fast? By 3:10 p.m. Jesus, Leo, that's a tall order. Push harder. There's $15,000 in it for you if you deliver. Second call, Westchester Country Club. Hello, Mrs. Kim. This is Leo Vargas from Vargas Construction. I need to discuss the Carter Vargas wedding booking. I kept it calm, said there was a family emergency. She was polite, apologetic, and assured me the $2,500 deposit would be fully refunded. Conversation lasted 12 minutes. Third call, the Four Seasons, Westchester. Mr. Garcia, this is Leo Vargas. You might remember we did your kitchen back in 2019. Came in under budget, ahead of schedule. He remembered. I asked for a favor. The presidential suite Baron had booked at $4,200 a night. Suddenly, it had a plumbing emergency that would require extensive work. By Vargas Construction, of course. Fourth call, Glen Island Harbor Club. This one was personal. I'd built their entire marina in 2018. Saved them $460,000 after the original contractor tried cutting corners. The owner, Dan Galanti, owed me more than cash. He owed me his reputation. Dan, it's Leo. I need the Carter wedding booking canceled. No, I can't explain right now. Yes, I know it's your biggest event this quarter. Trust me. By 2:10 p.m., Baron Carter's dream wedding venues were dropping like dominoes. And I wasn't finished yet. At 2:57 p.m., Kevin called back. His voice was tight. Leo, you're not going to believe this. Baron Carter is cooked. SEC's been investigating Carter Investment Group for 8 months. Client fund misappropriation. We're talking $3 for million in suspicious transfers. Keep going. It gets uglier. The guy's got gambling debts. Huge ones. $460,000 spread across 3 casinos. Word is, he's been patching the holes with client money. And here's the kicker. The FBI raid is scheduled for Monday morning. He'll be arrested by Tuesday. So Baron Carter had 1 weekend left as a free man. One last weekend to learn what happens when you spit in the face of the wrong immigrant. By 3:25 p.m., the panic began. His wedding planner called first. I know because Helen called me 20 minutes later, her voice trembling. Dad, something weird is happening. Baron just got a call. The country club canceled our booking. They said there was a family emergency, but that doesn't make sense. We had contracts. That is strange, honey, I murmured. And then the Four Seasons called. They said the presidential suite had a plumbing issue. Major repairs. They're refunding the deposit. I made sympathetic noises while scrolling through my company's client list. 30 years of building relationships was about to pay off in spades. Dad, Baron is losing it. He's calling everyone, trying to find another venue. But everything decent is booked months in advance. I'm sure he'll figure something out, I said calmly. What Baron didn't know, what nobody knew but me, was just how deep Vargas Construction's roots ran through Westchester County. We hadn't just built buildings. We built the framework of the county's entire social life. At 3:55 p.m., my phone rang again. Glen Island Harbor Club. Mr. Vargas, this is Jane. I wanted to personally apologize about the Carter wedding cancellation. Mr. Galante explained there were family circumstances. I appreciate that, Jane. We'll be refunding the full $27,000 deposit, of course. And Mr. Galante wanted me to tell you, if you need anything else, anything at all, just call. Dan Galante knew what loyalty meant. Back in 2018, when his marina project hit permitting roadblocks, I'd walked the plans through City Hall myself. Called in favors. Smoothed the way. His business opened on time because of relationships I'd spent decades cultivating. At 4:30 p.m., Helen called again. This time, scared. Dad, 3 more venues just canceled. Rye Golf Club, Sleepy Hollow Country Club, even the Maritime Aquarium in Norwalk. They all gave different excuses, but Barron says this can't be a coincidence. He was right. It wasn't coincidence. It was leverage, pure and simple. Rye Golf Club. Vargas Construction built their new clubhouse in 2020. The project manager still sent me Christmas cards. Sleepy Hollow. We renovated their pro shop after the 2019 flood, saved them $320,000 by working around their tournament schedule. Maritime Aquarium. My company had just finished installing their new HVAC system. The curator's daughter happened to work in my accounting department. Barron thinks someone is sabotaging us, Dad, she said. He's talking about hiring a private investigator. That seems extreme, honey. Is it? I asked. Dad, Barron asked me something today, she continued. He wanted to know if you knew people at these venues, if you had connections. I stayed silent. Dad, what did you tell him? I said you were just a construction contractor, I replied. That you wouldn't have that kind of influence. Just a construction contractor. Even my own daughter had bought into Barron's story. Helen, let me ask you something, I said. In 30 years, how many buildings do you think Vargas Construction has worked on? I don't know. Dozens. 847 completed projects, I corrected her. Shopping centers, office buildings, restaurants, hotels, country clubs, private homes. Over the years, we've employed more than 600 people, subcontractors, suppliers, vendors. We've done business with every major construction supply company from here to Albany. She was quiet. When you build someone's dream, Helen, they remember. When you save their project, solve their problems, deliver on time and under budget, they remember. When you employ their sons, hire their cousins, sponsor their little league teams, they remember. Dad, what are you saying? I'm saying maybe Barron doesn't understand what 30 years of honest work actually builds. At 5:40 p.m., Barron called me directly. His voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the panic just beneath the surface. Leo, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Of course, I said. Do you have business relationships with any of the venues we've been looking at? I've done work for various clients over the years, I replied. Why? Because 7 venues canceled our wedding today. 7. I repeated. That doesn't happen by accident. That is unusual. Leo, I need to know. Are you interfering with my wedding? The question hung in the air. Barron Carter, the man who had spent months telling me how unimportant I was, now suspected I had the power to ruin his perfect day. Barron, let me ask you something, I said calmly. Yesterday, you told me I didn't understand important people. Today, you're asking if I have enough influence to affect your wedding. Which is it? Silence. I mean, according to you, I'm just an immigrant contractor who got lucky. How could someone like me possibly have connections to 7 different high-end venues? Leo, unless, of course, you were wrong about what I built here, he said. Unless 30 years of hard work actually earned you something more than luck. I could practically hear him sweating. Look, if there's been some kind of misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Barron, I interrupted. You've been very clear about your opinion of me, and I've been very clear about understanding exactly where I stand. What do you want? There it was. The question that finally made it obvious Baron Carter understood who held the power. I want you to have exactly the wedding you deserve, son. Exactly the wedding that reflects who you really are. Meaning what? Meaning a man who builds his life on other people's money while hiding his own crimes probably shouldn't be throwing elaborate parties. Dead silence. That's right, Baron. I know about Carter Investment Group. I know about the SEC investigation. I know about your gambling debts. I know exactly who you really are. You can't prove anything. Monday morning, the FBI will prove plenty, I said. But don't worry about Monday. Worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow 150 guests are going to find out that the man judging everyone else isn't worth a damn himself. I hung up. Baron Carter had asked for important people at his wedding. Tomorrow, he would get them. FBI agents counted as important people, didn't they? Saturday morning, 8:25 a.m. Baron showed up at my office unannounced. I was reviewing blueprints when my secretary buzzed me. Mr. Vargas, there's an Baron Carter here to see you. He seems agitated. Send him in, I said. He walked into my office like he owned the place, but the confidence was cracking. Designer suit wrinkled, hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. The guy hadn't slept. We need to talk, he said. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Have a seat. He stayed standing, trying to look in control in a room that screamed my success. Awards on the walls, photos of completed projects, a framed copy of my first building permit from 1995. My life, the American dream, displayed. You think you're clever, don't you? He said. I leaned back. I think I'm thorough. 11 venues, Leonardo. 11. Every single backup option we had gone overnight. That's unfortunate, I said. You did this. Did what exactly? I asked. His hands were shaking. You've systematically destroyed my wedding. Used your connections to shut down every venue in the county. Baron, yesterday you told me I was just a lucky contractor. Today, you're crediting me with controlling every venue in Westchester. Make up your mind. He started pacing, like a caged animal. This isn't a game, Leo. Helen is devastated. Her dream wedding is ruined because you can't handle being excluded from the cool kids' table. Excluded from the cool kids' table, I repeated, still calm. Sit down, Baron. Something in my tone made him freeze. I said it again, sit down. He sat. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a manila folder, 47 pages of SEC investigation documents. His eyes went wide at the federal letterhead. Let's talk about games, son. You've been playing a big one. $2. $3 million in client funds, 12 separate transactions, all to cover gambling debts at Atlantic City casinos. His face went pale. Doris Pavlak, 82 years old. Retirement account. You transferred $210,000 to your personal trading account, telling her it was a high-yield investment. You can't prove. David and Lola Kim, both in their 70s. Their grandson's college fund, for $160,000. Gone. I slid another document across the desk. Bank records showing wire transfers to Borgata Casino. Here's what's interesting, Baron. You spent months lecturing me about important people, about refined money, social standing. All the while, you were stealing from elderly clients to fund your gambling habit. It's not stealing. It's temporary liquidity management, he stammered. Temporary liquidity management, I repeated, calm, almost amused. Even with federal charges looming. He was talking in euphemisms, trying to soften the truth. The FBI doesn't see it that way. Neither do your clients. Neither do the federal prosecutors who've been building this case for 8 months. How did I get this information? He stammered. The same way I handled the venue cancellations, I said calmly. Relationships, Baron. Real relationships built on trust and respect, not inherited connections or climbing some social ladder. He leaned forward, desperation in his eyes. Look, Leo, maybe we can work something out. The wedding. Helen, She doesn't deserve to suffer because of our disagreements. Helen deserves better than you, I said bluntly. You love her money. I love her. You thought marrying Helen would fix your financial problems, give you access to Vargas Construction's assets, let you cover up what you stole before anyone noticed. His silence said it all. Here's what's going to happen, Baron, I continued. Monday morning, FBI agents will arrest you for wire fraud, embezzlement, and securities violations. Your assets will be frozen. Your reputation will be destroyed. Your family name will become synonymous with financial crime. And Helen, she'll realize she dodged a bullet. Instead of marrying a criminal, she'll be free to find a man who actually deserves her. Baron stood slowly. This isn't over. You're right, I said. It's not over. It's just beginning. In 4 hours, 150 guests will arrive for your wedding, and they'll find out exactly who Baron Carter really is. You bastard, he spat. I stayed calm. I'm an immigrant who built an empire through honest work. You're a trust fund criminal who destroyed elderly people's lives for gambling money. Which one of us is really the bastard? Saturday, 10:40 a.m. Baron Carter played his last desperate card. I was having coffee when Helen called, her voice brittle with anxiety. Dad, have you seen Baron's Instagram? I opened my laptop. Baron had posted a video 30 minutes earlier. Perfect lighting, composed expression, sitting in what looked like his family's study. Old money staging at its finest. My friends, I need to address some disturbing developments regarding my wedding today, he said in the video. It's come to my attention that certain individuals have used unethical business practices to interfere with private family celebrations. The comments started pouring in. Carter family friends expressing outrage, society connections offering support, old Westchester money circling the wagons. Without naming anyone, he continued, I want everyone to know that intimidation and business coercion will not be tolerated. The Carter family has served this community for 4 generations. We will not be bullied by those who mistake wealth for class. Wealth for class. Baron was doubling down on social hierarchy, even while facing federal charges. Helen was crying. Dad, people are sharing it. Baron's friends, his family's connections. They're saying awful things about new money, about immigrants who don't understand American values. American values. From a man who stole $2. $3 million from elderly clients. The comments are getting worse, Dad. Someone posted photos of our house, calling it immigrant gaudy. They're saying, you're jealous of old American families. I scrolled through the responses. Doris Carter, Baron's mother, had shared the post with her own commentary. Some people never learn their place in society, no matter how much money they acquire. Their place in society. Then I saw something that caught my eye. Senator Reynolds had liked the post. The same Senator Reynolds who had been at several Vargas Construction ribbon cuttings, praising my company's contributions to local economic development. At 11:10 a.m., my phone rang. Dan Galanti from Glen Island Harbor Club. Leo, I'm seeing some social media activity. People are questioning your character, your business practices. Some of my board members are concerned about our association. I understand, Dan. Look, I've known you for years. You're solid. But this Carter kid has connections, real connections. Federal judges, senators, old families with serious influence. If this gets ugly, it's already ugly. The question is whether you believe in what I've built or in what Baron Carter inherited. A pause. What aren't you telling me, Leo? Monday morning, Baron Carter will be arrested by the FBI, wire fraud, embezzlement, securities violations. He stole over $2 million from elderly clients to cover gambling debts. Silence. Jesus Christ, Leo. You're sure about this? I have the federal investigation documents. 47 pages of evidence, banking records, wire transfers, client complaints. Baron Carter is a criminal hiding behind his family name, and now he's trying to ruin my reputation to save his own. Exactly. At 11:55 a.m., I made my own social media post. No video, just text. Simple. Direct. To the Westchester community. Tomorrow, federal agents will arrest Baron Carter for embezzling $2.3 million from elderly clients. Before you judge immigrant values versus American values, ask yourself, whose values include stealing from grandparents to fund gambling addictions? I attached one document, a bank record showing Baron's $210,000 transfer from Doris Pavlak's retirement account to his personal Vegas gambling expenses. The response was immediate. Doris Carter called the Post fake news and demanded I retract my libel accusations. Senator Reynolds quietly unliked Baron's video. 3 board members from different venues called to confirm our business relationships were solid. But the real shift happened at noon. David Kim, the elderly client whose grandson's college fund Baron had stolen, shared my post with his own story. This man destroyed my family's future for poker chips. 73 years in America. Built a small restaurant empire. Saved every dollar for education. Baron Carter stole my grandson's Harvard dreams for blackjack tables. Then Lola Pavlak posted, "My husband died believing his retirement was secure. Baron Carter spent our life savings at casinos while I ate cat food to pay medical bills." Within 2 hours, 12 more victims came forward, elderly immigrants, working-class families, middle-class retirees, all robbed by the man lecturing about American values. The comment sections flipped. Baron's society friends went silent. The narrative shifted from immigrant overreach to criminal exposed. At 2:10 p.m., Baron posted again. The composed mask was gone. In its place was raw desperation. "These accusations are completely false," Baron said, voice cracking. "My lawyers will address these defamatory statements. My family's reputation will not be destroyed by jealous competitors who never finished." The video cut off mid-sentence. At 2:13 p.m., 3 black SUVs rolled into the Carter family driveway. FBI agents, arriving 18 hours early. Someone had tipped them off that Baron might flee. That someone might have been a concerned citizen who provided evidence of ongoing financial crimes. That concerned citizen might have been an immigrant contractor who understood the difference between inherited privilege and earned justice. Saturday, 2:40 p.m. While FBI agents swept the Carter estate, I was having the most important conversation of my life. Helen sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Baron had dismissed my immigrant friends just 2 days ago. Her wedding dress hung upstairs, untouched, a symbol of dreams crumbling. Yet her eyes were clear for the first time. "Dad, I need to know everything," she said. I spread the documents across the kitchen table like a dealer laying out cards. Bank records, SEC filings, client testimonies, gambling receipts. 2 years of Baron Carter's criminal activity documented in black and white. Doris Pavlak, 82 years old. Baron convinced her to move her retirement account to Carter Investment for better returns. Then he transferred $210,000 to cover losses at Borgata Casino. Helen studied Mrs. Pavlak's bank statements, her hands shaking. She had trusted him. They all had trusted him. David and Lola Kim. Retirement savings gone. The Williams family, their daughter's medical fund disappeared. 12 families, Helen. 12 families destroyed so Baron could chase his gambling addiction. "How long have you known?" "I suspected something Thursday night." Baron was too eager to marry into money, too desperate to access Vargas Construction's assets. So I hired Kevin Brown to investigate. Helen looked up. "Uncle Kevin? Your old army buddy who became a private investigator? One of those unimportant immigrant friends Baron didn't want at the wedding?" The irony wasn't lost on her. The man Baron had dismissed as unworthy had gathered the evidence that would destroy him. Kevin found the SEC investigation Friday morning, the gambling debts, the pattern of client fund theft. Baron had thought marrying a rich man's daughter would solve all his problems. Helen was quiet for a long moment, processing the betrayal, not just Baron's betrayal of his clients, but of her. "He never loved me, did he?" Honey, no, I said. Be honest with yourself. He saw dollar signs. Vargas Construction's value. He thought he'd found his solution. I nodded. The truth was better than comforting lies. 3 weeks ago, Barron had asked about making her a partner in Carter Investment Group after the wedding. He said it would combine our family's business interests. I thought it sounded romantic, but really, he was planning to use our money to cover what he'd already stolen. Helen stood and walked to the window. Outside, news vans were gathering. Word was spreading about the FBI raid. The wedding guests, she said quietly. 150 people, Barron's family, his business associates, our friends, they're all going to know. Would you rather they didn't know what kind of man you almost married? No, she said, turning back to me. You're right. Dad, I owe you an apology. Helen, no. Let me say this. For months, I let Barron make me ashamed of our family, of you, of where we came from. I watched him dismiss your friends, your accomplishments, your worth, and I said nothing. You were in love. I was a coward. I wanted to belong in his world so badly that I forgot where I truly belonged. I forgot who raised me, who sacrificed for me, who built everything I have. She picked up one of the client testimonies. Teresa Garcia, 74, whose home healthcare fund had been emptied for Barron's Atlantic City weekend. This woman lost her house, Dad, because the man I was going to marry stole her savings while I was picking out flowers and trying to impress his mother. That's not your fault, I said. Isn't it? I knew Barron was gambling. I knew he had debts. When bills started arriving at my apartment, when he started asking about your business, about our family's assets, I ignored the red flags because I wanted the fairy tale. The kitchen phone rang. Doris Carter. I let it go to voicemail. Dad, there's something else, Helen said. Last month, Barron asked me to co-sign a loan application. Said it was for a business expansion. I almost did it. Almost. I asked. I came to you, remember? Asked about potentially investing in Barron's company. You suggested I wait until after the wedding before making any financial commitments. I remembered, I said. Helen had been excited about joining their business interests. I had stalled, told her to focus on the wedding first. Something about Barron's eagerness had set off alarms. If I'd signed that loan, Helen, you would have been legally responsible for his debts. You would have been his exit strategy. She sat back down, taking in the full scope of his manipulation. He hadn't just stolen from his clients. He had planned to steal from us too. The good news? He failed. And Monday morning, justice would catch up with him. Helen looked at the evidence spread across the kitchen table. 12 families destroyed, millions stolen, lives ruined. Dad, I want to do something for these families. Mrs. Pavlak, the Kims, all of them. Vargas Construction should help somehow. That's when I knew my daughter was going to be just fine. Saturday, for PMM. The Vargas family estate was buzzing with controlled chaos. Against all odds, Helen had made a decision. The wedding was canceled, but the gathering would go on. 150 guests had traveled for this day. They deserved the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. Helen stood on the back patio, still in her wedding dress, veil gone. Behind her, the Hudson River sparkled in the afternoon sun. I know you're confused about the venue changes, the last-minute messages. I want to explain everything. I watched from the kitchen window as guests assembled on the lawn. Barron's family sat in the front row, Doris Carter pale and furious, flanked by federal judges and old Westchester families. My construction crew stood at the back, uncomfortable in borrowed suits, but loyal to the end. Senator Reynolds was there, shifting nervously as FBI agents discreetly took positions around the property perimeter. Helen's voice rang out across the gathering. This morning, I learned something about the man I was supposed to marry. Something that changed everything. A black Mercedes rolled up the driveway. Barron, released on emergency bail, stepped out with his lawyer. His face was haggard. His expensive suit wrinkled from federal processing. The $700,000 bond money he'd posted probably came from his victims. Helen, what are you doing? Barron shouted, pushing through the crowd. Telling the truth, she said, reaching the patio. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently, "This is a private family matter. You don't need to." Barron didn't finish. Baron Carter stole $2, $3 million from elderly clients to fund his gambling addiction. The crowd went completely silent. You could hear the Hudson River lapping at the dock. Doris Carter stood, outraged. "This is outrageous. How dare you make such accusations?" "FBI agents arrested him 6 hours ago," Helen said, her voice calm and steady. "Wire fraud, embezzlement, securities violations. 12 families ruined so he could play poker in Atlantic City." Barron's face turned crimson. "Helen, you're hysterical. The stress of the wedding, the venue problems." "There were no venue problems, Barron," I said. Every head turned toward me. "I canceled every booking because I discovered who you really are." I stepped onto the patio, carrying the manila folder that started it all. "Doris Pavlak," I said, voice carrying over the silent crowd, 82 years old. "Trusted Barron with her retirement account. He stole $210,000 for a weekend in Vegas." Barron's lawyer grabbed his arm. "Don't say anything. Not a word." "David and Lola Kim," I continued, married 50 years. Their grandson's college fund, $460,000, spent on blackjack tables while they ate pasta every night to save money. I held up the bank records for everyone to see. Teresa Garcia, 74. Needed home health care after a stroke. Barron emptied her medical fund for a poker tournament. She lost her house. Senator Reynolds edged toward his car. Several other Carter family associates checked their phones, likely calling lawyers. "But here's what Barron really thought of all of you," I said, pausing for effect. 2 days ago, he called me, said he only wanted important people at his wedding. Said my immigrant friends wouldn't understand the language of real power. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the portable speaker Helen had set up for wedding music. Barron went white. "Leo, don't," he shouted. "The language of real power, Leo. Old money influence. I'm not trying to be offensive, but there's a difference between new money and, well, money refined over generations." Barron's recorded voice filled the garden. Every word, every insult, every casual dismissal of the life that had built Vargas Construction. "This marriage is Helen's chance to elevate herself, to become part of something bigger than where she came from," the recording said. Doris Carter's face was stone. Her son's voice continued, explaining how Helen would need to leave certain things behind to be accepted by their family. "You know what, Mrs. Carter?" I said, stopping the recording. Barron was right about one thing. This marriage would have elevated Helen. It would have elevated her from honest success to criminal accomplice. Barron finally exploded. "You sanctimonious bastard. You think you can destroy my family because we wouldn't accept your blue-collar friends? You think your construction money makes you better than 4 generations of Carter achievement?" "No, Barron," I said. "I think my honest work makes me better than your stolen money." The crowd was riveted. This was better than any soap opera. "You want to talk about achievement?" I continued. "Vargas Construction has employed over 600 people in 30 years, built 847 projects, contributed millions in local taxes, created jobs, built communities, all earned through sweat and skill." I point to his family. Carter Investment Group stole retirement funds from grandparents to pay gambling debts. Which family's achievement are we celebrating here? Barron lunged toward me. His lawyer barely restrained him. "I'll destroy you. My family has connections you can't imagine." I gestured to the half-empty section where his business associates had been sitting. "Your family's connections are abandoning you faster than rats from a sinking ship. Senator Reynolds left 20 minutes ago. Judge Whitman is in his car, making phone calls. Your old money friends don't want to be photographed with a federal criminal." Helen stepped between us. "Barron, it's over. The FBI has your bank records, your client files, witness testimonies from 12 families. You're going to prison." "Helen, please." We can work through this, he pleaded. Your lawyer says to keep quiet, I said. Anything you say can be used against you in federal court. Doris Carter finally spoke, her voice ice cold. Helen, dear, you're making a mistake. Barron made some poor financial decisions, but… Mrs. Carter, I said, cutting her off, while you were teaching him about social superiority, you forgot to teach him basic human decency. How dare you? How dare I what? She asked. Tell the truth. Barron spent months explaining that my family wasn't good enough for yours. Turns out your family wasn't good enough for basic honesty. FBI agent Garcia stepped forward. I'd called him an hour ago, suggested he might want to witness Barron's public statements. Mr. Carter, you are in violation of your bail conditions by approaching witnesses in your case. You need to come with us. This is harassment. I have rights, Barron sputtered. You have the right to remain silent, I said, calm but firm. Which, honestly, you probably should have used 10 minutes ago. As they led Barron away in handcuffs for the second time in one day, Helen turned to the remaining guests. To Barron's family and friends, she said, voice steady. I'm sorry you had to learn this way that the man you trusted was a criminal. To my father's friends, thank you for showing me what loyalty and integrity really look like. And to the families Barron destroyed, Vargas Construction will be contacting you this week to provide victim assistance. The Carter section of the lawn was nearly empty. Old Westchester money had evaporated like smoke once the truth came out. But my construction crew, my so-called unimportant immigrant friends, surrounded Helen, offering support, love, and unwavering loyalty. Doris Carter stood alone by her Mercedes, for generations of refinement powerless against her son's crimes. Mrs. Carter, I called as she reached the car. You were right about one thing. Some people never learn their place in society. Your son never learned his place was as an honest man, not a criminal who preys on the elderly. She drove away without a word. An hour later, as the last guests left, Helen found me by the river. Dad, do you think I made the right choice? I looked at my daughter, beautiful, strong, finally free from Barron Carter's manipulation. Honey, you made the only choice that lets you look yourself in the mirror. The Carters will never forgive this public humiliation, she said quietly. They'll be too busy with federal prosecutors to worry about us, I said. She smiled for the first time in days. So what happens now? Now we get back to being a family that earns respect instead of demanding it. Monday morning, 8:57 a.m. Barron Carter's arrest made the front page of the Westchester Journal-News. Investment manager charged in $2.3 million elderly fraud scheme. The photo showed Barron in handcuffs, his Yale ring gleaming as federal agents led him from the courthouse. I was having coffee when Helen called from her Manhattan apartment. Dad, have you seen the news coverage? Hard to miss, I said. Channel 12 wants an interview. They're calling it immigrant success versus old money crime. I told them no comment, she said. Good choice. Let the evidence speak for itself. By 10 a.m., Doris Carter called my office directly. Mr. Vargas, I want to discuss a settlement for the misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Mrs. Carter, I interrupted. Your son is a criminal. The Carter family may have contributed to this community for over a century, but your reputation was destroyed by your son's choices, not my actions. She hung up. By noon, the full scope of Barron's crimes had emerged. 17 victims for $8 million stolen. Federal prosecutors were seeking 8 to 12 years in prison. That evening, Helen drove up carrying Chinese takeout from our old neighborhood restaurant. The one Barron said wasn't refined enough for Carter family dinners, she said with a sad smile. We ate at the kitchen table, the same table where this whole mess had started. Dad, she said, I've been thinking about what you said, earning respect versus demanding it. And I quit my marketing job today. I want to come work for Vargas Construction. I nearly choked on my noodles. Helen, you have a business degree from Fordham. You could work anywhere. I want to work somewhere I'm proud of what we build, she said, literally and figuratively. 3 months later, Baron Carter was sentenced to 9 years in federal prison. He'll serve at least 7. The 12 families he robbed? Vargas Construction established a victim assistance fund. We couldn't restore their innocence, but we could help rebuild their security. Helen officially joined the company as Director of Community Relations. Her first project, affordable housing for elderly immigrants, the very people Barron had preyed upon. Doris Carter moved to Florida. The Carter estate went into decline. 4 generations of Westchester prominence undone by one generation's greed. Last week, Helen started dating Kevin Brown's son, a public defender who represents families Barron would have dismissed as unimportant. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes, it's living well, building honestly, and teaching your children that respect is earned, one relationship at a time. The important people understand that. The rest? They never mattered anyway.